This morning, 3.9 million Americans put on a cap and gown and walked across the stage. One of them came home, took the gown off, hung it over the back of a chair, opened LinkedIn. 0 new messages. He didn't cry. He didn't panic. He just sat there, staring at the screen, waiting for a feeling to pass. A feeling he didn't have a name for. It wasn't failure. Failure requires you to have tried first. It wasn't despair. Despair is too dramatic. It was quieter than that. Colder. The feeling of being quietly removed from a list he didn't know he was on. There's a name for what he felt. A psychiatrist gave it that name in 1962 after surviving something most of us can't imagine. The class of 2026 has never heard it. I've been staring at the data for weeks, and I keep coming back to the same 2 thoughts. It isn't just that the market is bad, it's something I've never seen before. And that feeling you're carrying, it's not new. Someone named it 60 years ago. And he was dead right. The unemployment rate for recent college grads is 5.7%. That means, out of every 20 kids who walked across that stage this morning, 1 is going to still be looking for a job at this same time next year. Same gown, same LinkedIn. Just 1 year of silence later. Look at the big companies, the ones that used to be the gold standard. They're planning to hire 1.6% more people than last year. You know what that is? It's rounding error. It's 0. For 500 of the biggest employers in the country, there is no next batch of graduates coming in. Here's the 3rd number, and, this is the one that should stop you. In 2022, 70% of college students said they thought it was a good time to find a quality job. In 2026, that number is 19. That is not an economic statistic. That is a generation watching its own future collapse in real time and being told to put it on a resume. Now, I know what you're thinking. Another recession story. The economy goes up, the economy goes down, kids figure it out. I thought the same thing, so I went and looked. Every recession in the last 150 years, the young people came back. Sometimes painfully, but they came back because the system still needed them eventually. This time is different. It hit me when I looked at the entry-level tasks. You know, the grunt work. The analyst pulling the data. The junior writer drafting the copy. The new hire reading through a stack of contracts. We used to give that work to 22-year-olds to teach them the ropes. But, it turns out that learning work is the easiest thing in the world for an AI to swallow. And it does it in 4 seconds. For free. It doesn't need to learn. It doesn't need a promotion. It just replaces you. So companies aren't pausing hiring until the economy turns. They're quietly deciding they may never need that first rung again. That's not a downturn. That's a substitution. And it is the first time in modern history that a generation has graduated into a market that isn't pausing. It's replacing. We need to talk about the last time something like this happened. Not the Great Depression. Something closer. Something your dad probably remembers. And, might not want to talk about. 1982, Pittsburgh. For about 60 years, if you were a boy growing up in Pittsburgh, you knew what you were going to do with your life before you knew how to read. You'd graduate high school, walk into the same mill your father walked into, and probably the same one your grandfather walked into. The work was brutal. The pay was good. The pension was real. But the answer to what am I going to be, that was written down on the day you were born. Between 1974 and 1984, Pittsburgh lost about 100,000 manufacturing jobs. 40% of the city's industry, gone. Not in a war, not in a depression. The steel just got cheaper somewhere else. I want to tell you about a kid. I'm not going to give him a name because the truth is, there were thousands of him. He graduated in 1982. He was 17. His father had worked at the mill for 28 years. He'd planned the day for years. walk in through the same gate his dad walked through, get hired, buy his first car by Christmas. He walked down to the gate on a Monday morning. The gate was chained shut. There were notices nailed to the fence, numbers to call that nobody was answering. He stood there for a while. He didn't get angry. He didn't even know what he was supposed to feel, because what was happening to him wasn't in any vocabulary he'd been given. He wasn't unemployed. You can't be unemployed at 17. He wasn't disappointed. Disappointment is for things you tried for. The oral histories of that decade are full of attempts at the word. Betrayed, lost, ashamed, even though they hadn't done anything wrong. One word that keeps coming up is deleted. I know what you're thinking. You're 22, you have student loans, and I'm telling you about a kid at a mill gate in 1982. What does this have to do with you? That kid at the chained gate and you at your laptop this morning, you're staring at the same thing. He isn't looking at a gate. You aren't looking at LinkedIn. You're both looking at the place where the answer used to be. But here's where 2026 is worse than 1982. When the steel left Pittsburgh, it went somewhere. To Japan, to Korea. The work still existed. It just belonged to someone else now. A Pittsburgh kid could, in theory, follow it. This time, the work isn't moving to another country. It isn't moving anywhere. The entry-level job a degree was supposed to unlock is not being relocated. It's being dissolved. There's no city you can move to where the junior analyst job is booming, because the thing replacing it doesn't live in a city. It lives in a data center, and it doesn't sleep. And here's the part nobody tells you about Pittsburgh. That generation, most of them never fully came back. Not financially, some did okay. New jobs eventually showed up. But identity-wise, they never came back. They spent the next 40 years explaining what they used to be. I used to work at the mill. Past tense, always past tense. What they lost on that Monday morning wasn't a job. It was the answer to who am I? And that answer never came back. The economy did. The answer didn't. So if the question is, what am I if no one needs me? Somebody must have thought about this before. They did. A psychiatrist, Vienna. In 1942, they put him on a train and sent him to a camp. He survived 3 years. Most of his family didn't. He went back to Vienna, started practicing psychiatry again. Normal patients. People who had never been in a camp. People who had food, houses, jobs. And, he kept seeing the same thing. He surveyed the patients at his hospital. 55% of them, normal, fed, housed, employed people, were showing the same symptom he'd seen in people who had survived the camps. The symptom was this. They had lost the feeling that their lives meant something. He gave it a name. He called it the Existential Vacuum. His name was Viktor Frankl, and what he wrote in 1962 reads today like he was looking through a window into 2026. He wrote, "As the struggle for survival has subsided, the question has emerged. Survival. For what? This is the question the class of 2026 is walking into. It is not a job market question. It is the oldest question humans have. And, for the first time in modern history, an entire generation is being forced to answer it without any of the usual scaffolding. Your parents didn't have to answer this. The system gave them an answer. Provide for the family, pay off the house, make sure your kids have it better than you did. You don't get that. The system collected the answer sheet on the morning you graduated. Now, I know the next move would be to say, and that's actually a beautiful opportunity. That's where every video about this turns into a TED Talk. It's not an opportunity. Opportunity is a word people use to make you feel better. It's something stranger. You are the first generation in modern memory that doesn't have a script. Your parents had one, your grandparents had one, The kid at the mill gate had one, until the gate closed. You don't. There's a word for the state of being a human without an assigned role. It's bare life. A life where your existence is no longer defined by what you're for. One last thing. I started this video by saying the class of 2026 is walking into something that's never happened before. That was true. But, it wasn't the whole truth. The whole truth is they are not the generation history abandoned. They are the first generation being forced to face, at 22, a question every human eventually has to face. Your parents will face it too. They just don't know it yet. They'll face it the day they retire and the job that defined them for 40 years disappears. They'll sit at the kitchen table on a Tuesday morning and realize the answer to, "Who am I?" has just been collected. Every human eventually arrives at the gate. The class of 2026 is just being told to arrive early. Arriving early is not a curse. It's not a blessing either. It's a fact. Frankl spent the rest of his life trying to figure out how people who'd had everything taken from them kept getting up in the morning. He never published a formula. The only thing he kept saying for the rest of his life was this: the system can stop needing you. It cannot answer for you. That part, answering, was always going to be yours. The system just made it easy to forget that for a few generations. So if you walked across that stage this month, or if you walked across it 5 years ago and you've been quietly drowning ever since, here's what I'd say. I don't say this to make you feel better. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're not lazy. You're early. And nobody, not your parents, not your professors, not the business leaders who admit this in private and then go silent the moment a camera turns on. Nobody is going to tell you what to do with that. That part, it turns out, was always yours.